So with this, I would like to welcome our new speaker, Praveen. So Praveen is going to talk about Azure Data Factory integration. So welcome, Praveen. Over to you.
Thanks, Bharat. Hi, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are joining from across the globe. So, myself, Praveen Desai. Let me share my PPT. So, is the PPT visible to everyone?
Yes.
Yeah. Thanks, Bharat. So, today's session is about integrate all your data with Azure Data Factory. So, we'll learn a few of the things that are related to Azure Data Factory, how we can move the data, how we can integrate data with among various systems. So, let us move to the next slide. So, a little bit I will talk about myself. I have more than 15 years of experience in various database technologies from SQL Server, MySQL, RD, uh, other RDBMS as well that are open source. And also, I designed and developed many RDBMS. I started with my career as a C++ programmer. Then I went into the database area. Then I started developing the database as well as designing, and then I moved to the database architecture. So currently, I'm working as a data architect. Earlier, I worked as a data DBA lead for a large DBA teams. So currently, I'm living in India and working across many clients. I've done a Microsoft certification, Azure, as well as a SQL Server. So that is my overall background. So today we'll see what is Azure Data Factory. So what is exactly Azure Data Factory? So in many business scenarios, we need to copy data from one system to another system, wherein data is exchanged between systems. Sometimes not just data need to be exchanged, by need to transform. We also need to do operations on the data. We need to apply a business logic on them. We have to transfer the data, and then feed it to different systems. So data is, you can say that need to be moved from one system to another system, and it's not just a few rows or something. There is a huge lot of data is involved in all these operations. So we need some system or a tool to move this data. So there are many tools are available in market. From Microsoft Stack, there is SSIS. It was there earlier. Now there is Azure Data Factory. So this is a completely cloud-based ETL tool wherein you can move the data from one system to another system. The systems could be Azure AD inside Hadoop, various databases, as well as you can move the data from data storage as well, like storage or any other particular, other APIs as well. So it is basically a cloud-based ETL system. Since it is designed specifically for cloud, it is highly scalable and supports a big number of connectors. So creating the pipeline is very easy in Azure Data Factory, as well as monitoring is very crucial, and that is also very intuitive and handy. There are different mechanisms to trigger this pipeline using a normal schedule based trigger, as well as you can go for tumbling window. Tumbling window is very new feature that is only, you can say, that available in cloud based Azure Data Factory. It wasn't available in SSIS or on premises systems. So that is very useful, and many features are available, like how many threads you want to run at one time, or you can create a dependency using data as well. So to understand Azure Data Factory in a better way, we'll discuss about one of the activity, that is copy data activity. So in copy data activity, we will see the topics, source and destination of data, then components required to build it. Then we need to create a pipeline, then trigger the pipeline and monitor the pipeline. So creation, triggering, and monitoring we'll do in the demo. But first two things, that the source and destination and what are the components required, we'll see through the slides. So source and destination is nothing but the connector that is needed for Azure Data Factory so that you can move data from source to destination. So there are large number of connectors available in Azure Data Factory, and those are growing day by day. So currently Azure has 16 connectors from Azure Blob Storage, Azure SQL Database, then Cosmos DB, MariaDB, Azure Data for MySQL, and whatever is present as a Azure platform as a service, that is called Azure Connector. And when you say database, 29 connectors are available, those can be on premise, those can be in a particular VM, or those can be third party as well, like Amazon RDS of for Oracle, then Amazon RDS for SQL Server, DB2, and many other databases. Then also we have a NoSQL support as well. NoSQL connectors are available like Cassandra, MongoDB, and Couchbase is also there, which is in currently preview mode. When we talk about the file connectors, we can connect to Amazon S3, Google Cloud Storage, HDFS, generic, and many other uh, connectors are also available there. So when you talk about generic protocol is generic HTTP, OData, then generic ODBC. So this is particularly very helpful generic protocol, because you will not find all the connectors to all the databases. Then you can go for a generic protocol. Like recently, I connected to one of the Sybase very old system, and Azure was supporting Sybase 17 version as one of their connectors in database connectors. But then I could able to use a generic protocol because many of the databases supports ODBC connectors. So there it is very helpful. Then there are many connectors available for services and apps like Dynamics 365, then Dynamics X, Dynamics CRM, then Salesforce application, SharePoint Online. So many applications are supported. There is a complete list is available on Microsoft site. And before you add any particular connector, you have to see what it supports. Whether it supports a source as a source system or a destination system, and what all crude operations you can perform on these connectors. So that is about the source and destination. Let us see components that are required to build this particular pipeline in Azure Data Factory. So at very high level, pipeline is called, pipeline logical grouping of activities that perform, you can say, unit of work. Together, the activities in a pipeline perform a task. So benefit of this is that the pipeline allows you to manage the activities as a set instead of managing each activity individually. The activities in a pipeline can be chained together to operate sequentially, or they can operate independently in parallel. Since it is a Azure cloud platform, you can have many activities run in parallel, and you can connect them to a single output as one of the activity, so that you will get a benefit of parallel processing. And it is a huge parallel processing is supported in Azure Data Factory. Activities, then we talk about activities. Activities represent a processing step actually in a pipeline. So for example, you might use a copy activity to copy data from one data store to another data store. Data Factory supports three type of activities. So there are many activities basically, but they are grouped into three type of activities. So one is a movement data activity, then data transformation activity, then control activities. So control activities, you can say that if an else loop or some conditional thing you want to do, then you can call it a control activity. Then after activity, data set. Data set represents a data structure within the data store. So it is a simply point or reference to data you want to use in your activities as input or output. Then link services. Link services is nothing but you can say the connection string. Like you use a connection string in any particular application, so you can connect to data store. So link service is nothing but a connection string. Then we have integration runtime. Integration runtime is nothing but on which you execute all these pipelines. So integration is runtime. You can say underlying layer. It is a, you can say that a connector between activities and data set. Okay, so it is nothing but on which you can execute activities. It is a basically a bridge between activity and link services. It references the link service and provides a compute environment. So whatever runtime you configure, let's say 2 core, 4 core, it depends on integration service, your parallel processing, etc. It depends on integration services. And this is this is the way you can actually execute your flow nearest to your target data set, so that your pipeline is optimized from execution point of view, as well as meeting your security and compliance needs. Okay, so to understand all these components, we will go through few of the scenarios and then we'll move to the demo. So let us consider one scenario. One of the major UK hospitality industry building new ERP system in Azure cloud, and few of functional modules would be operational soon. However, its old ERP system is still running in on-prem environment and perform many of daily operations. Few of the modules in new ERP which are going live are not very critical, but needs data from old ERP system on periodic basis. There is no system integration planned between old and new ERP. However, the old ERP can give daily modified data by exporting it into CSV files. Hence, the new ERP system need to inject data received in CSV format into its own database and process it further. So here I have put a diagram that depicts this particular scenario, or we can address this scenario using data factory by using these components. So if you see, the first level is data files, then the second is a link service. Link service, as I told you, that it's a link between it is just a connection string to the data store. Then there is a data structure, and from data structure, data is there is a copy activity which the perform all these activities in Azure. And again, there is a data structure. This is on the target side data structure. Then link service to the target data store, and the data will be finally will go into the database. So source here in this case is a blob storage, nothing which is which can accumulate all types of files. So source is files which are residing on blob storage, and where target is here a SQL database that are needed in new ERP system. So we have to process these files. Process means copy this particular files data into our target SQL database. So this is the rough diagram you can see, which talks about the Azure Data Factory. We'll see all these components in Azure Data Factory. But before that, we'll also see the second scenario. So in second scenario, again the one of the major UK hospitality industry building new module for its own blogging site. Since this is a blogging site, it is using a new type of database, that is NoSQL database. So however, it needs data from other ERP systems on periodic basis. One of such ERP system already using Azure SQL database for storing data, and it has all necessary data which is required for new blogging site. Now, in this case, we'll go for Cosmos DB as a NoSQL database, since it is present in Azure, and it needs to receive a data from SQL database. So in this pipeline, you will see the table as a source data in from SQL Server, and here is the link service. Then data, it is table structure is the source as a for Azure pipeline. And in the middle you will see copy data activity, which does this particular operation, which transfer this into JSON files, because in this case it is a NoSQL database, and NoSQL database actually it is a SQL API based database which stores data in JSON format, document format. So data is transferred from rows to basically JSON files, so multiple files will come here, and then it will move to the it will be fed into the Cosmos DB. So here you can see the link services will be different for Cosmos DB. Okay, so let us jump into the demo part. Yeah. Okay, so here I logged into the database. Let me go to the first data factory or from the portal. Let's see. So I have already created data factories. If you click on data factories, you will see I have created a one data factory. Hope you are able to see my screen. So in the one on this screen, you will see there's one particular data factory that I already created. Here I open this data factory here, and once you open this particular data factory, to do the authoring means to create any particular pipeline. Here you will see the basically all the parameters or all the information that are related to data factory. So, but to author that particular any particular pipeline, we need to go to this separate portal. That is Azure Data Factory Studio that will be opened in Azure portal only. If I click on this, yeah. So on left hand side, you will see these four tabs. You can see one is home, then author. So here is the author. Here you will see pipeline, data set, data flows, then Power Query. So we'll use this pipeline and data sets only. So before I go into directly creating, let us first understand from presentation earlier I showed you that in the pipeline, the starting point is the data source. Then underlying, the most underlying thing is runtime environment. So integration services, you can say the integration services on which actually our all pipelines will be executed. So here you will see Azure Auto Resolve integration runtime. So this is basically by default you will see it there when you create a Azure Data Factory. So you don't need to create this, but there is an option available. You can go and create your uh, integration runtime. So here is the Azure self-hosted is present and Azure SSIS. Azure SSIS is nothing but you can use it for executing SSIS packages that you already created. Let's say using Azure previous Microsoft SSIS solution. So you can execute it that as well in Azure Data Factory. And here is another option, Azure self-hosted. This is very useful when you have a on-premises databases and you need to move that particular on-premise data to cloud. So how will you do that? So for that, you need to create an integration runtime Azure self-hosted, and after you create it, you have to install the one of the installer on your on-premises VM so that you can connect to your database using that self-hosted integration runtime. So we will not consider these cases right now because we need to go with one of the simple flow. So for that we already have auto resolve integration runtime that is executed in Azure. Any particular Azure VM it will get executed. So but we don't have to manage any VM of that. It will be executed on any VM available. Yeah. So you can see here parameters. These parameters are not editable since it is created by Azure Data Factory. So after integration runtime, we need to have a connection to our database as well as storage on which files are residing. So next thing is link services. So link services, I already created a link service to Azure Blob Storage and Azure SQL database and for Cosmos DB as well. But what we can do, we can go and create it right now. Yeah, you can here you can click on test connection. So connection is successful. I will create this. So this is our source basically Azure Blob Storage. Here I actually named it as a 27 November, today's date. Then we need a destination database, SQL database. Database and storage are already created. Let's see SQL database. If I type it here, it should show it in our settings. So server name test SQL is already available there. So I will choose a test DB and password. Let me type the password. Let's see connection works. Yeah, connection is also successful to the database. So for first scenario, our source and target connection is ready. Azure Blob Storage that I created, and here is the link service is also present. And for database, Azure SQL database link service is present. So our link services are ready. Then the next step is a data set. So for data set, we need to go into Microsoft this Azure Data Factory authoring. So in the data set, I will create a data. Let's say new data set. So our file is basically delimited text here. So I will choose delimited text CSV file. File comes as a delimited text. There are others options are also available like JSON, binary, etc. For time being, we'll go with this particular. So I will name it as source data set 27 November. And link service, right now I created this Azure Blob Storage 27 November. I will choose that. And file path, I already created a container. This is a root folder and created a one container, and then inside a container there is a sample data CSV. I already imported in Blob Storage. I will choose that. Before we complete this all the activities, I will show you what is the file and what is the target database. So our source data set is ready. Here you will see that we need to publish it, but let me create it data set for SQL Server as well. So we need to choose a link service. Link service nothing but the connection string. So here is a SQL database 27, and it will show you the available tables. So I created one customers table. So we can click on OK right now. So now we have a two data sets. One is source and one is destination, that is SQL data set. I will publish this, and let's first see what is there these files. Okay, we'll see it later, but we'll create a one pipeline first. So we need to copy this source data to the destination, so files. So what type of activity we need? Copy activity. Here you can see the copy data. So in these activities, you will see there are plenty of activities are present, like Azure function. You can execute Azure function. You can execute batch service, and there are database related activities. There is HJ inside, and many options are available. For the timing, we'll go with this copy data activity. So for copy data activity, here you will see that it needs a source and sink. So source we will go for a blob storage, source data set 27 November that I created. And our files also has a header. So let me see. Okay, okay. That option doesn't not needed in this case. And destination data set. Destination SQL dataset 27 November. Let me just maximum this one. Yeah. Here you will see many other options are available like a pre-copy script. Pre-copy script is nothing but on the target side before you copy this data. Let's say you want to truncate any particular table or perform any particular operations, you can do that pre-copy script here. You can put that script directly here, and that will be executed before this copy data activity completes or starts execution. So we just need to table to table, I mean files to table activity, copy activity. So we have to go for mapping and see uh, whether columns are mapped correctly or not. Okay, so you will see it a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 because I haven't mentioned, I guess, header since our file has the header. From this setting, you can see that what are inside a file. So as a preview, you can see all the data that is deciding in this particular file. So here it is columns are shown as a column names also shown as a data. So let me choose where is that option. Okay, that option is available in as a data set. I forgot to actually enable this particular file row, first row as a header. So here I actually selected rows. And before I do this, go this particular activity. So let me publish it, and once the publish is done, I will do again the mapping of these columns so that header won't see it as a data. So now you can see here headers are reflecting, I think, first name, last name. Here it is showing some error because here the first column name is ID instead of customer ID. So by name it mapped it exactly, from source to destination as per file. But here the column name was ID, so it didn't select that one. So I specifically chosen this one to map it to customer ID. I think this is done. So this flow is complete. This pipeline with this particular copy data activity, this is complete. Let me show you the what is there in the blob storage and how you can see that one. So I created one storage account, and you can view that using the storage browser here. So there are on the left hand side there are many options available. Storage, go to the storage browser, and here you can see the blob container. So if I click on blob container, you will see by default two folders are there. This logs is used by internally to store data in transit or any particular temporary data. And here is the customer that I created the container, and inside that the sample data CSV. So I can click on this, and if I go to edit, you will see that data present in this CSV file. So you can see it in the first row here as a column header, ID, first name, etc., and all the data. I think there are 1,000 rows are there. And let's see destination as well, our test DB. So here I connected to the database test DB. So in this particular portal only, you can query the SQL database, any particular table. So I created one table that is customers, and let's see how many rows are there. So currently there are no rows in this particular table. It is a blank. So we should able to see the data in these customers if I execute this pipeline. So let me go to the pipeline data factory. Yeah, here is our activity. So how to execute this particular pipeline? There are various options available. So if I add a trigger here, you will see that the trigger now option is there, and new and edit. If I click on new and edit, the triggering schedule will come. So here, but there are no triggering schedule available. I have to click a new, and it will show you this particular schedule. So here you will see there are two options: schedule type, schedule, then tumbling window. There are other options also available: storage events and custom events. Storage events is nothing but if any files arrives in storage, then this flow will be automatically will be executed. For that we need to go with the storage events, and there is a custom events is also available, like event bus or event grid. For this you can use a custom events, but for time being we'll not go with any of these options, because I don't need to create a schedule. I just need to run it once right now to show you in this particular demo. So I'll go here and add trigger now. Let's see. And once I trigger executed it, you will see that pop-up will come running. And what we can do, we can go and see the performance of that. You can monitor that particular pipeline. So earlier execution also you can see it in last 24 hours. Other execution also. So currently this pipeline I executed, we can see it in progress. It is already executed here in the pipeline. If I refresh it, you should able to see. So see, you can see it is executed successfully. So let's click and go inside what is. So in our activity, this particular pipeline, we have only one activity, copy data activity. If there are, let's say, multiple activities, you should able to see, those particular um, here folders as well. So, and here you will see the underlying table. You should able to see multiple rows. But in this case, we just have one particular activity. It is showing one row here. It executed successfully. Here you can click on this as an input. So see input, it will show you this particular type of in JSON format, and output also. What is out? What how many data uh, data return, data read, etc., and all those things it will show you in this. And here is one more, you can say that details, it is marked with specs. This is really good. If you click on it, it will show you in very you can say really nice way It will show you the what is the source and what is the destination here, and how many data it read and then return. That is also in terms of size it will show you. And you can see it here, 1,000 rows it read, and then how many rows it returned, 1,000, and how many number of connections it used for this. So two connection. So let's say you have a millions of rows, then you can go and increase the parallel data processing. That time you will see the peak connections. um, you can see as per your setting. So let's say if you configure it a 16 core, then you might see, more than 2 or 4 or whatever is required, so it optimally will configure that or use it. So here you can see queue and transfer time. So transfer time, it took only 3 seconds to execute. Queue is a triggering schedule. You can say that how much time it took to actually pick this task. So it took 10 seconds. So you can minimize this queuing time by using the other options, that TTL option is present, time to leave option present there. But the billing will affect if you use that. In case it is very critical, then you can go and increase that particular amount. So let's see whether we received a data in test DB. Earlier it was showing 0 rows. So you can see it is showing, I think, yeah, rows. You can see how many, you can just count it. Yeah, so we are good. It is showing 1,000 rows basically. So for another demo, we need a data from SQL database to Cosmos DB. So we will use this particular data only, which is residing in run now in customers, and we will move this data to Cosmos DB. So before we do that, let's see Cosmos DB first. What is data is there, and what are things are associated with Cosmos DB. So here is a Cosmos DB account that I created. Uh, in Cosmos DB, you can see here no Data Explorer is present. So if you click on Data Explorer, you should able to see the database, and there are collections are present. So collections you will see as here as individual items. So there are no items present currently. You can query it as well. Let us through query also see it. So there is no data in these particular collections. You will see as a 0 0 currently. So we need a pipeline to move the data from SQL database to Azure Cosmos DB. Let us go back to this test DD. I don't want to move 1,000 rows, so maybe I can delete a few of the rows. So I can show you some other things as well if I have a less number of rows there. I think I will keep only 10 rows here. Yeah, I think we can see it here. Yeah. So now we have, I think, 10 rows only in this particular SQL database table. We'll move these 10 rows to Cosmos DB. For that, we need a pipeline. So again, we'll go to the data factory. We'll create a pipeline. So we already have a source here as a data set SQL database, but we haven't configured a data set for Cosmos DB. So let us create a data set. So before that, I think we need a link service. Let me check whether I already created a link service or not. I haven't created a link service for Cosmos. There is already one present earlier, but we'll create it a new for today's demo. So there are Cosmos with two options, MongoDB, SQL. I'll go with the SQL API. Let's test the connection. Yeah, so database blob I had created in Cosmos DB. I connected to that particular database. Connection is successful. Let's create this link service, and it got successfully created. And now let's see create a data set. Data set is nothing but a data structure. So inside and as we saw the connect this particular link service is a connection string. So again, let's choose this. I'm again and again repeating what is data set then a link service because for any particular who already not worked with Azure Data Factory, for them it's difficult to remember and understand. So that is the reason I am repeating it. Link service we will choose it. Then it is showing a collection. Okay, so collection I already created customers collection there, and let's see. Click on OK. Let me publish this. Now we have to create a pipeline. SQL DB to Cosmos DB. That is our requirement in this scenario. 27 November, and let's create a activity here. So choose a data source as a SQL database that we already have it as a source. So here you will see the many options are present, like query timeout, isolation level, etc. So let's say if you want to move a very large amount of data, not just few rows or something, so that you can based on that you can increase or decrease it. So you should not keep it very big here option as a query timeout option. Let's say if there is any particular issue, then you might see that it will execute that particular amount of time. So you have to adjust it appropriately so that it will not exhaust your time limit. Let's say if it is mentioned 120 minutes, so it should not take 2 hours. If there is only 100 rows or something, so that accordingly you should decrease or increase this particular value. And it's saying go for a Cosmos. So write behavior here, other option is also available. Insert like from file DB from earlier from blob storage to SQL database, there was only insert option was there. There wasn't other options available. But in this case, you will see there are other options available like insert and upsert as well. Upsert is nothing but insert and updates. If there is already primary key present on the target side, it will update that particular row. So based on that, so this is a really good feature. When you want to just sync the data based on the primary key, you can go for upsert. So if there is no data, it will insert it. If there is already data present, it will update it. This is a really cool feature, you can say. So I will go for a upsert. Let's see. And mapping, we don't need to create a mapping because here it will be transferred from rows to JSON files, and there is as such collection data type, there is a no mapping. You can say that that column is not available, then it will get created because it's a document based or JSON based data type. So our I think pipeline is done here. Let me publish it. Yeah, this is done. So we already saw that the Cosmos DB, we don't have any particular records right now. So I will go and execute this data factory. Okay. So again here I executed just for trigger right now option. So again we'll go into the monitoring, and here you can see the monitoring window, and the current see it is getting executed. It is showing as in progress. I think it will get executed quickly. So it got executed. If I click on it, it will show you the task that I created copy data, and let's click on this again. So here you can see that I think there were 11 records present in the source side. So there I think in the query it was on the portal it was showing 10 as in a window. So that size is 1 KB, 1.6 KB. Here it will see the how much size data written. And here because it uses its own link services, etc., the data will be compressed format. Okay, so you will not see the exact size, etc. Here data, how much data written, you will not see the exact size. So the data will be maybe most of the time will be compressed format and then will be transferred. So it got executed in less than, or I think in 2 seconds. Here the transfer time it is showing. And there also breakup, you can see it here. How much time it took for first byte, then for last, then I think total time here. So if there is, let's say you have millions of records, and you can see that first time it started in few seconds, and you will see that here time maybe in minutes, so that you can calculate how much is the performance. Means what or how much time for connection it took, then how much time for actual data transfer. So let's see in the Cosmos DB. Yeah, so you can see your 11 actually rows here, 1 to 11, and here is the output in JSON format. So let's see 102. Since we have, I think, a few minutes, so let me show you one option.
Hi, Praveen. This is Rajesh, and while you're showing that, can I ask you a quick question?
Yeah, sure.
Thanks, Praveen. It's very nice and interesting. The question was in your first scenario, right? The Azure Blob Storage and also the Azure Data Factory that you used are sitting in the same subscription. In fact, in the same directory, right? But in reality, this won't be the case, right? Azure Data Factory could sit in one subscription, while your Blob Storage could be in a completely different client directory. And
Yeah,
how does that work? So is the process still the same even though they are in two different places?
see, there are many things will come into this particular place. There is a possibility that your database may be residing on premise, or your database may be in different region as well. So
Correct.
there are, yeah, so there are many options. Like here you can create a vnet as well, and you can give a vnet to vnet connectivity you need to establish. So all those things will come into place. Like right now, as a data factory, I here used auto resolve runtime.
Mhm.
Here you can manage the vnet environment. You can choose it. In the managed vnet, you will add your data factory in your vnet, and you can give IP addresses. This particular, it should use these IP addresses to run on this particular host, like that. I mean, it will be executed in that particular VNet only, and from VNet to VNet, you need to give access separately, so that our data factory can access those resources.
Okay, okay,
Yeah,
that's good.
yeah.
Thanks. And
So
when we check, sorry,
yeah, yeah, go
sorry.
ahead.
And when we check the mapping, so do we have to check the mapping per table? Because there could be a lot of tables and lot of
Yeah,
files
yeah, yeah.
involved, right?
So there is a, yeah. So there is a, let's say you have 100 rows in one particular table. Okay.
Hmm.
And because it's not practical to go for mapping but if you have a source and destination as the same column names, then you will see that those will be auto populated and will be auto, you can say, aligned. So
Okay,
in that case, you just scroll these and see whether it is correct or not. If, let's say, source and destination, the column names are different, then definitely you have to map it. So there is no
okay,
option available. Like if the source and destination has the exact data structure, and let's say you want to actually copy the data from, let's say, 10 tables to another 10 tables. So instead of creating 10 pipelines, what you can do, you can create a one pipeline. You can give a parameters to that pipeline, what is your table name, etc., and you can loop it through as well dynamically. That is also possible.
okay, great. Thanks,
Yeah,
Praveen. Yeah, thank you. And thanks, Rakesh, for unmuting me. Thank you.
yeah.
No
So
problem.
So what option I was actually going to show you is that as you can see here, 100, this particular first name, you can see it is a actually you can say, dynamically generated by this CSV file that I created earlier. So I can change, if I change this on the source side, you will see that that name also will get changed. I mean, absurd, that I was talking about, the absurd feature that is available in Azure for this particular API, uh, Cosmos DB API. Yeah. So we can go about that. If there is any questions, we can address questions as well.
Yes, thank you, Praveen. So it was
Yeah.
indeed a very great session. There are a couple of questions on the chat window.
Yeah.
I may not be able to go through all of them, but I'll try to go through a couple of them, one or two. The first one is, if I have an encryption on destination system based on symmetric key, then how we can copy data from source to destination?
Come again. You're saying encryption. Our database is already encrypted, you mean to say?
Yes. So if we have an encryption on destination system based on
Mm-hmm.
symmetric key, then
Mm-hmm.
how we can copy data from source to destination?
It also depends on whether the encryption. I mean, encryption also, there are many options. Are there encryption? How you encrypted that particular? It depends on that particular. So many factors will. So you need to know what is exactly scenario. Whether it is data, because let's say transparent encryption is there, then you don't need to do anything. But if you are doing some, you need to do first operation and then need to transfer. Then you have to apply that particular encryption first. But if it is transparent, then the case is.
Okay, Praveen. Thank you. I
Yeah.
hope that answers the question. The second one is, how to create data logging for the users. In some cases, the data logging is not clear or understandable for users.
Data logging, you mean to say the logs that you need to generate in data factory, right?
Yes, that's what I believe.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So there is an option available in the data factory that you can log it to some other system, or you can I mean, there is an option available to choose that particular logging. So even if you don't do logging, then also you have many options available. You can see it there. You can create a annotations, etc., in the pipeline as well, so that you will get a idea what that particular pipeline did, or what those things. executed, or what are the parameters that got executed. Those options are also available.
Thank you so much. So yeah, Praveen, I must say it was indeed a very good session, and definitely we got to learn a lot from through this presentation and even through the smooth demonstration that you displayed. Um, thank you so much for your time and for providing for the community.
That's my privilege to attend this particular session. Thanks a lot, everyone, for attending patiently. Have a nice weekend.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Praveen.
Have a nice weekend, Praveen. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
All right, folks. So on this note, before handing over to our next speaker, let's have a 15 minutes quick break for refreshment. And please stay tuned on the same channel. So we have some more exciting sessions coming up. Yeah. All right. Thank you all.